Well, good evening, everyone. This is Michael, and we're on the, well, at least here we are, on the evening schedule in Europe. And this is our Triangles meditation for Wednesday night. Tomorrow I'm anticipating that Tuya will be back with us. Also, Friday we will have the Science of Triangles webinar. And then in the evening, 5 p.m. GMT, so Science of Triangles 5 a.m. and GMT, and then the Dissipation of Glamour at 5 p.m. And then we'll, at 5 p.m. on Saturday, be doing the Souls of Nations. Now, we are heading for the south now. We've been up here in the Little Bear Meditation Center, and we'll be heading south now to the Temple of Silence. So we will not have a Sunday presentation. It's just too risky trying to do that on the train. Too many interruptions. There are enough interruptions. I understand from one of our group members that attends quite a bit that there's a little chirp, I don't know how to describe it, a little squeak, a little chirp that's coming in on the broadcast. It's not coming in on the recordings, but it's part of the electrical system here that we're trying to get fixed. Whether we succeed in doing that before we leave, I just don't know, but I hope you can simply bear with us and just remember that the angel kingdom works through the bird kingdom. And there'll be an occasional chirp every, I don't know, maybe every 10 seconds to 30 seconds. And hopefully it's not too disturbing to you. I've tried everything, and the next thing is the electrician. So we'll be working on that. Now, just a few things to remember about this meditation. Well, it's work that simply must go on. DK has a good reason for that, you know, and it's we're trying to transform the pattern of squares of our outwardly non-sacred planet into a pattern of triangles. And when you think about it, that's pretty much what happens in the etheric body of the human being as well. Maybe the non-sacred human being, or a person who's just, you know, beginning on the path and for quite a number of years, maybe even millions of years, is simply building a personality. And it's one step after another, and it does really take millions of years. But now it's possible to work with our own etheric body and arrange that there be the appropriate triangle found given our stage of evolution. If you would turn to a treatise on cosmic fire, page 169 or 170, I can give you a little bit of an idea there about the kinds of triangles that have to be developed in the human energy system, and I wouldn't be surprised if the very same thing is operative on a much larger scale, given the etheric body of our globe Lord, the etheric body of our chain Lord, and finally the etheric body, much larger, of our planetary logos. So, you know, there are triangles that are vivified from the early days on. A pranic triangle between the shoulder center, which is not the heart center. There's a center near the diaphragm, but above it, unlike the solar plexus. And then there's the spleen, the splenic center. Now that's a very vital physical triangle, and it has to do with people. It's rare these days who have not even reached the stage where they are emotionally responsive. The majority of human beings are emotionally responsive. They're controlled from the astral plane, and then the triangle obvious there is the base of the spine, the solar plexus, and the heart. And if we are coming into that later stage, which hopefully we are, so we can really become true disciples where we are controlled from the mental plane, then we have the base of the spine, the heart, and the throat. And now we start talking about advanced man, maybe beginning to approach the first initiation, partially controlled by the soul or ego, the heart, the throat, and the head, or the four lesser centers and the Alta Major Center, which is their synthesis. You see, it's all very logical how it works out, and I dare say that that's going to be how it's going to work out in the system of the planetary logos, the Shane Lords and the Globe Lords. And then spiritual man to the third initiation, the heart, the throat, and the seven head centers. And then finally, more triangles, spiritual man to the fifth initiation, the heart center, the seven head centers, that is within the head, and the too many petaled lotuses. And I assume them to be the head center, and well, it's a question of whether probably the ajna center, because there are 96 petals there. So what we're not trying to be all that specific about building those kinds of triangles in the etheric body of our present globe and chain. We're simply trying to get the process really started by linking up triangles within quite a number of human beings, trying to reach that magic number we've been told, whether it's true or not, but it sounds true to me, of 100,000 triangles within humanity that are really active and useful. So we're working on the human level, and we'll let the Globe Lords, the Chain Lords, and the planetary logos connect up those different triangles which are analogous to the kinds of triangles that I just mentioned here. So, you know, obviously this is a very deep science, and we've been given, in a way, a method of at least approaching it and creating right human relations, really improvement in human relations. When the Tibetan says, you know, this must go on, he never speaks lightly, and you know, his jokes are few and far between, maybe a little jest here and there, but always a dry humor. And when he says that this must go on, this subjective opportunity to bring soul energy into the etheric body of the planet, let's say, and into the entire personality, the lower 18 subplanes of the planet, is something that is crucial. And we wonder how we will improve the situation, because we begin to look at how it is between nations and peoples, and, you know, it just seems like retrogression at times. But the triangles will bring us forward. So let's remember how very important is this work, as simple as it may seem. Of course, he tells us don't regard it as too simple, and don't regard it as too complex. The Noble Middle Path is the way to consider these triangles, and interestingly enough, that Noble Middle Path is ruled by Libra, whose symbol is the triangle, and connects with the Atmic plane or spiritual will. So it's part of the spiritual will of Shambhala that these triangles really be manifested within humanity. Now, let us begin by absorbing the white light. Excuse me. And sounding a few times inaudibly the Om, let's say 3 times inaudibly, and we can use If you want to hear something, we use the pitch that's in the background. So breathe in the white light from above. There are several kinds of light that we use, you know. Sometimes the white light, it casts out all manner of fear and is tremendously illuminating. We also use the orange light, the orangish yellow light. It is the color, interestingly enough, of the solar angels. The primary color is this orange relating to the fifth ray and to the mental plane. All the different colors are there in the petals of the egoic lotus, maybe not red at this time, but maybe those first ray souls do have somewhat of a reddish tint. So DK tells us, you know, start your day in the following way, and I think it's a good, you know, good practice he's been giving us here, and he's participating in that. He says, I would ask you for a few minutes each morning prior to doing the group meditation to rest quietly back in your chair or bed and, closing your eyes, link up with your soul and with me, your friend. And he says, you will thus create a triangle of light between your soul, your head center, and myself. This is all being done on the higher mental plane for the soul and the master, and then in our own head center otherwise. So he says, fix and hold this triangle firmly in your consciousness through the power of the creative imagination. So the image is there, and that yellowish orange light with which, well, we work and he works too. The way this diagram is portrayed, he would be on the left, and that much of the solar angel which is infusing the egoic lotus would be on the right, if we imagine that we are facing forward. But I don't know if it makes much difference. Anyway, let's imagine that. And this time the color of the light is different. It's a solid triangle, he says. A solid triangle of light and not just an outline. And visualize the base of the triangle on the mental plane, where Master DK works and where dwells and works your soul. The lower point or apex touches the top of your head. there is a major center there, you know. The 12-petaled lotus in the head is considered the major center within the head center. And then we see pouring down via the triangle a stream of light, golden in color and not white this time. It is more light orange than white, and all of this has occult significance. And we see this color, this flow, flooding our whole body. And when we have visualized this as perfectly as may be possible for us, then we rest back in that light and bathe in it as we would bathe in the waters of the sea. We see it permeating every part of our physical equipment. And we let it do its work without us having any definite ideas as to what should be accomplished. We're leaving the rest of the activity in the hands of Master DK, as he says, leave it to me. We just see and feel the permeation. And interestingly, he says, you know, this exercise will aid you in handling your life problem and your service, and this is a beautiful idea here, until such a time as you enter into that light wherein consciousness awakens, free from the bonds of flesh. The blessing of your co-disciples is upon you, and yours on them. So maybe it's not asking too much every morning or so to do this, whether in bed or in a chair. Doesn't take long, and it allows the Master, who is alert for such things, to lend his assistance, whatever he may be doing. The next phase, we've reached a certain poised stage in touch with the higher mental plane, and we hold the consciousness steadily in the mind and not in the head. And we continue to attempt to contact that spiritual triplicity, which is that which hovers over the square and radiates the energy of light into the waiting field of active thoughts. Now, In a way, that's the soul on the higher mental plane, but from another perspective, still higher. And as we build the Antakarana, that's the spiritual triad, which is a realm of planetary thought, planetary love, planetary will, and in a way it's so big that it is impersonal. And somehow as we live our life, we have to be aware of this triangle, both the soul and the truer soul, the egoic lotus. And now the really important part, where we contact our own triangle or triangles, and we realize that energy does follow thought. So however many triangles we may be in, we call upon our triangle group members by name and with love. And we have a few minutes of silence to do this. And of course, when you're doing this on your own, you will take as long as you need. But there are such differences in the number of triangles that people are sustaining. So in your little network, you visualize love and goodwill passing between the members of your triangle or triangles, and visualize how it can start to change the square-like etheric pattern into a pattern of triangles, and that's according to the spiritual will on the Atmic plane, where Libra is ruling and where the symbol is the triangle. It's a plane very connected with the third ray and with the first. But not only love and goodwill, but light, spiritual light, is passing through the members of your little network. And one day before long, it will be the spiritual will which seeks to carry forward the divine plan. So it's a process of transformation underway, and it will last many years. Aquarius is one of those signs which carries the third ray as well as the fifth ray, and other planets will be of assistance. So as you look at life, try to see the triangular relationships which are underlying so much of the world of effects. And of course, it's not just having the triangles, it's making sure they are really alive and vibrant, etherically more living, and can really feed the network of triangles, the greater network. It's a very occult process. We get some idea of that when we visualize or realize that the global network of triangles is under the eye of the great Shambhalic triangle, the three Buddhas of activity in Shambhala. They are great beings connected with the third aspect, and they used to be planetary logoi in the previous major solar system. They're all on the intelligence aspect, but on the first, second, or third subray of that aspect. And, well, times of emergency, it's pretty obvious we're in them right now. And what we're told is that these Buddhas can energize the triangles network at times which are dangerous for humanity, times of emergency, and thus help restore the balance. Again, Libra, the triangle, and the balance. So although it seems to be a great stretch, at least as a group, we can try to be aware of these three Kumaras, these three Buddhas, and realize that this whole project is really emanating from Shambhala. We are learning, slowly, however, perhaps, to invoke the higher energies. And of that kind of invocation, the great invocation is the greatest example given to us. And so we focus on the words of the great invocation and get into the spirit of it as we try to bring the higher worlds in their triangular nature down into the lower worlds. Okay, friends, we're reaching the end of our meditation on triangles. Just do your best to keep them going, visualizing your own little network and the soul-infusing personalities with whom you are working. None of us is entirely soul-infused, that would be the fourth initiation. But visualizing the members of the Triangles group getting brighter and brighter, and that goes for the entire golden network of triangles around the world. We're making a great living spiritual organism which is substanding, lying beneath all world affairs. So see it growing into a vital reality that can break up those limiting cleavages which are setting human beings against each other and preventing the unity which must prevail. And then the soul will indeed externalize itself. We can really have no idea, maybe the masters know, but we cannot know how many triangles of value, let's say, there are. And the story goes that when the 100,000 mark is reached, there will be a great turning around. So with that in mind, and seeing humanity redeemed, we sound the Om 3 times. So love, light, spiritual will, all these will be flowing through the Triangles network and the triangles that we are participating in strengthening. And every day, of course, the great invocation after we've visualized our triangles and sent the love and light and the will to good through them. And then we know we're really doing something for this planet. It may seem removed from everyday affairs, but if the great triplicity of spiritual triangles makes its way into our consciousness and the consciousness of many, well, then things will change and humanity will draw closer to hierarchy and hierarchy closer to humanity. So we thank you for your presence at this meditation. Tomorrow we'll be working on the reappearance of the Christ. When you can contribute to this work on the Moria Federation website, we are deeply appreciative. And of course, really the most important thing is your meditative presence. That's the most important, but tangible things are needed too. So try to support this work tangibly as well.